Hello, and welcome to the Peace is an Action Verb podcast. Excuse me, I have a little frog in my throat this morning. I'm, I'm here with my friend Leeliu, and I know Leeliu.
Yay!
Hello, Leeliu. We've known each other for probably 5 years now. Thank you for the virtual hug. 5 years about from our involvement together in a wonderful sharing space of the Tree Sisters Inner Journey Circle on Facebook so many years
Mm,
ago. And we have
yes.
continued our friendship online. And basically, Lilu, I just know you to be a beautiful storyteller and sharer of your life. And so that is my introduction for you. And I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Christine. I just want to say thank you again for inviting this conversation to take place and for feeling the call to take the action in the name of peace and to provide loving, harmonious, inspiring spaces for these conversations to happen. And and just really feeling, just as I was receiving your invitation and reading the very clear brief that you had sent, I was just like noting your devotion to this cause, and I want to celebrate you in your answering the call and for beaming out this call to the rest of us to come and vibe along with you in it and to bring forward some blessings. So thank you so much for this work that you're inviting us to be a part of with you. Pieces verb. And
Thank you so
so,
much, Lulu.
uh,
I need to interrupt you just for a moment because you are demonstrating a peace verb right now. You are feeling and expressing gratitude. So thank you. And you're welcome.
this is such a big part of my life, but maybe just to give everybody a little sense of my story briefly. I My name is Lilu, and I am born and bred and grew up in Singapore, and I now am situated in Germany with my beloved, and it has been quite a journey coming to this place and time and story of becoming as a freedom fighter, as a peace activator, galvanizer, whatever you call it. And in my day-to-day life, yeah, my sacred work lies in the space of women empowerment, embodiment, as well as making art with ritual and living in ceremony. So that is, by and large, my sacred work in service to life. And so as we were talking about, this aspect of giving thanks, as I was reading this brief that you had sent me and your connection to my energy with how you relate and feel me in this vision of peace as a verb, um, giving thanks is such a great big part of it. I find that, and this is part of my enthusiasm now, as it has energized my passion and enthusiasm to bring this to my people. I think in the way that I have been traveling and living this life in the past 4 years since I left Singapore in 2018, I haven't really been back to serve the land and its people and the spirit, and to enliven and embolden the spirit to come back. Because I feel like the reason why I left Singapore was largely because I felt like the land just couldn't really hold my expressions and receive it without. I think maybe some people might relate to this way of being. Is like when we're having grown up in an environment that was so boxed in and framed up and restrictive in its way of, this is what you can do, this is what's not okay,
Right,
like like
right.
hiding things under the carpet. You're just gonna follow the narrative of the general collective, and you're gonna just follow. And as my soul continued to reawaken in this body, it just felt like it couldn't host me anymore very harmoniously. So it is very recent, in the recent weeks, I have really felt this call to bring the medicine to my people, to my Singapore friends and family. And I think this is part of the the cause is how can I in my own role as a human bring my brothers and sisters back into the circle, like, and to welcome them to come into the circle of love, peace, harmony, ease, trust, abundance. And I was just having a conversation with a Singaporean sister yesterday and another one the day before about this exact thing is yeah, it's such a there's so much to unravel, but um there are some ways of saying in Singapore that um means you're afraid to die and you're afraid to lose. This is like a Singapore slang that we say "kia su, kia si," which is like don't be a we basically must compete in order to win. We basically must make sure we get enough so we don't run out. So that energy and that consciousness has been embedded in the consciousness in Singapore. So I was just sharing with my sister just now is, if we, which is why this work feels so very important to beyond Singapore as well, it's just the collective of humanity. How do we cultivate this muscle of remembering that we came from source, which is inherently perfect, which is inherently abundant, which is ever and always just love, it's like, and so much of life's happenings on the outside world is challenging us to adhere and acquiesce to the narrative that is singing to fear, that is singing to separation.
Yes.
And so part of the peace movement is just really welcoming brothers and sisters and all of humanity to come home to this energy of love. And it begins from within, right? The way that Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And we can never really change anybody because we each came as conscious creator consciousness. If may it be so that more of us remember this, that we have the power. We are the power. There is power in the people rising in this remembering together. And um, I just came back from a festival of a weekend festival here, which is one of the most beautiful festivals I've ever been to. Been so grateful and privileged to experience. And this weekend it was put together by a team of um, loving beings in a sociocratic culture who are sitting in a circle to bring this experience to people. There's no one sitting on top of anyone. Everyone is equally making decisions in leadership. And um, and there was such a rich cocktail of diversity and expression. There was like Rajasthani folk music, there was Polish folk music, there was jaw hop elders coming from the coldest part of the earth. It goes down
Wow.
to 72 degrees, and this grandfather was like playing on his jaw harp in a church in Germany.
Oh,
And
wow.
to Israeli medicine sisters just calling for women to unite because this is time for us to rise in our power, that we
Oh
can
my
break the
goodness.
chains. And
In Germany.
and
I-
it
In
in Germany. And
yeah.
it's so interesting to experience this in Germany because I myself have had these ideas around what Germany would be. It took me 2 years to say yes to my beloved inviting me to come because I was living in a crystal island in south of Thailand, living on coconuts and going to sunsets every day by the ocean and singing praises to earth, like that was my life. And
And
so
the rainforest that's in Thailand. I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but I just having been to both Germany and Thailand myself, Thailand is such an intimate and lush in the places that are still, not
Pristine.
damaged, right? The
Hmm.
connection to life, as happens at the equator, as happens in our tropical lands, is profound, and the beauty of the waters and the light. And so you're in that womb energy, really, and to take your mind to Germany and to consider, even though your beloved is from this place and is inviting you to join him, I can hear how the translation of being so close to the womb and so close to nature, and I'm trying to understand what is it going to be like in a very, as we think of austere maybe, um, European environment. So I'm just I'm following your journey.
Yeah,
I'm following. Yeah.
yeah. And I think the call to leave Koh Phangan, this beautiful island, I still very much endear to as my spirit home.
Mm,
It was it was and is and will continue to be the place that brought me my remembering, that brought alive this wild woman in me, that served me the remembering of who I am and who I wasn't, because I was living my whole life, pretty much my whole life, because I had this particular good daughter story that I had written subconsciously, that in order to be a dutiful, loving daughter, I had to be by my mother's side, and I had to
okay.
serve alongside her to take care of the well-being of the family. And so I didn't leave until I met with an accident in Kopangan in 2017. I met with a bike accident. I had a head injury that had me with a fractured skull and a blood clot, and I
Oh
was
my
in
goodness.
ICU, and
Yeah.
it was an intense experience. And I think spirit and God, source, life brought me this lesson, and the universe said, it's time to be free. It's time to fly.
The
And it
universe
took me,
broke open your head, broke open your
yeah,
head.
yeah. It really opened me. It broke me open. And miraculously I healed in 2 months. It took a lot of I was in a lot of my healing process. Was I had never experienced myself to be like I felt so old and brittle, when I was coming out of this process of the bike accident. I couldn't teach yoga. I could only do qigong. I did a lot of healing, a lot of crying, and I was at the same time navigating my divorce. This was part of me peeling away from that old story. So leaving this old story, I had gone to Kopangan and expanded and explored, and so actually leaving Kopangan was another part of the story in its rewrite, because I had discovered that I had written the story. I'm going to go close enough to my mother. I'm going to stay in the region so I can still kind of feel like I can still feel her. Like Thailand and Singapore is quite close. So to change and rewrite that story again after coming out of this COVID bubble in the last 2 years, I was so blessed to have lived in Thailand at the time, because I was still able to do all the things that I mostly wanted to do, to be with my friends, to go to nature, to
To be
to
outside.
dance, to be in ceremony, to be outside, and to be in connection with the land, in connection with the people, in connection with spirit, in connection with Gaia. Whereas in Singapore, in the meantime, Singapore had a completely different reality with, as I imagine many parts of the world has been going through and has been through, is the loss of freedom, the loss of the capacity and the ability to be in the open. So I come back to this experience that just happened 4 days ago. We this whole festival took place in a park, and to see children running free and swimming and dancing and just being free, like something in my inner child healed from that experience, from seeing the children so free and so open. They were dancing along with the adults, and they were they were so they were completely part of the festival. They were the highlight for me of the festival. I was walking around the grounds receiving the holy innocence of the children, the perfection of their wildness and the honesty of their heart. I was walking, I think the second day of the festival, there were three German girls. I think they were aged between 9 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
I was walking on my beloved and they stopped me and they started to take turns to give me compliments. And they
Oh.
were speaking in German. I know, it was just the sweetest thing. They were like, your hair is so beautiful, your earrings
Oh.
are beautiful. They were taking turns and
The way
just
that little girls can do, the way that little girls can do. It,
when guided in a loving way, so also to be able to see the example of what can be in this reality, in this new earth that we all believe we know is possible, is already here, that
may I interrupt you because there's just
please.
so much that I want to reflect back on in the beauty of what you've already shared with us. So you're talking really about finding and following your own path and how that is so very intimately entwined with first hearing that you actually have a story, understanding that you have a story of your life that you've been telling yourself. So many of us operate with a story without even knowing that we have a story. So you're all of a sudden you're coming to this realization with your head so symbolically cracked open, your life almost taken from you. And you realize you have a story, you realize what the story is, and then you realize you have an opportunity and even a responsibility to retell that story in a more healed way. And so this finding and following your own path and retelling your story is also intertwined with finding a place or finding places in this incredible living globe, living planet that we are on, that you are finding different places that create a space for your healing. That there's something about allowing there to be distance and separation in order for there also to be coming back together. And so I know that your story arc is leading us back to Singapore, and yet we're now here in Germany with the festival and noticing, as you mentioned, the different humans from different parts of the world that are coming into a healing experience of freedom, nature, connection, song, circle. There's that noun, right? The noun of the circle. And the connection of the sacred consciousness, aliveness of humans in children form. And for an adult, you an adult, to be healed, your inner child is absorbing this healing. Uh, Speaks to me. I'm not even sure if I have a verb for this somehow, but I'm going to add one. Weaving time. You're weaving time. You're reaching out to little you. Little Leeliu is coming with you as adult Leeliu to the festival, and the connection that you're having with the children in that place, who you mentioned were running and swimming. And I'm imagining swimming in a natural body of water. Am I correct on that?
So this happens in the heart of a little town, and I think it's the festival's been running for 11 years. So it happens within park grounds, and what they did was they build a pool that the children can swim and splash around in while there's a concert happening with what the adults are enjoying.
Oh
And
my
there's just
goodness.
like they basically create for 4 days as they have. I imagine the setup is quite similar. Like there was this beautiful. It was so mystical to dance under this beautiful tree that had these lights and the disco. There was this disco ball that was right on top of the tree, and the light that was moving around. It just looked like a natural disco floor. And I was just dancing to the live music that was like this Irish woman who was singing her medicine songs like a crone sister,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's just like it
The tree must have been
yeah.
so excited.
I know, to receive all of that energy and that love. Like
And
I
celebration and
was
movement and dance.
I did take in at some moment in time during the weekend, just taking in the environment and so like really tuning into what you're saying, that nature, that she is so happy to receive this. She is so
Yes.
happy to receive this, that in so many of the concerts and performances that I was at, a lot of them spoke about similar things, praying for Pachamama, honoring her, respecting her, coming together, respecting each other, and loving and celebration and expression. And I was just overwhelmed with so much love, that like Mother Gaia is receiving all of this love, and and also seeing how it's being expressed in the collective energy of the people that were there. I think there might have been 5,000 people.
Oh,
And
wow. That's
yeah,
quite a collection of love.
yeah, and it was so wonderful also to see for me, because in Singapore, growing up, the way that the elders are kind of put on the sideline, as I imagine some developed countries have the same reality, is like
Yes.
they're forgotten.
Yeah.
And to see the elders coming out to still be fully expressed, to still be fully embodied in their playfulness and their joy was just like really empowering. It gave me hope. It's like, yes, this is a dream that I am willing to give currency to my energy to, that as I come into my crone ages, I can still be, like there were crone
Yes.
sisters that were just like boob free and just drinking and, whatever they wanted to do, there's this, yeah. So when you were talking about, how my inner child came with me, there were so many aspects of the self that gets integrated organically as the outer experience is supportive enough to bring that change. It's like healing naturally occurs when there's a group energy that is grounded in love and upliftment and encouragement. I had these Indian Rajasthani brothers. They're from Rajasthan in India. So sweet. They are so amazing in their musicality. And after their performance, they came to me and they were like, Lilu, you amazing. I see you dance. It made me drum even more. And
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
African brothers and sisters who've been together in this band for 20 years. They've been together 20 years. And they put on such a spirited, like it was like Mama Africa live. It was just like, oh,
Oh,
so,
and so
so
much
rich.
rhythm and dance that it just pulls out of all of us humans when we can be
Yeah,
around the African
yeah.
rhythms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like, Ligo, we see you dancing. And it's just this, we come back, like it serves me to be reminded that we are here to shine our light. That as my light shines, it galvanizes like it lights and ignites and radiates, and it's just like an activation, an invitation, a natural invitation. Just because I am who I am, it gives you permission to be who you are. It's like that
Yes.
silent permission slip.
And so, oh my goodness, let me see. There's so much. So something I've actually been thinking about the last few days a lot is the natural healing wisdom that all life has. That life knows how to rebalance. Life knows how to galvanize and to transmute and to shed
Mm,
and to
mm,
honor and to learn and to rest and
mm.
to rise. Life knows this. Whether the life is
Yes.
an animal, whether the life is a microorganism, whether the life is a human being, we know we have this inherent understanding. And how when we're surrounded with other beings who probably have gone through a journey of their own woundedness and
Mm,
come back to self, that coming back to self then is also part of this giving permission. So I'm imagining the people that decided to come to Germany to
mm,
share their folk music and their
mm.
bands, that was a conscious decision of coming to bring healing. And I mean, I'm imagining you
Yes.
don't just buy a ticket to another place
Yes.
by accident,
I
that there's
feel
an
like,
intentionality there.
yes, intentionality. Definitely. I think as you were talking about, we all have this innate knowledge and wisdom within us, this knowing, this inner knowing of how to heal. Like
Yes.
we don't even have to try and make sense of it because it's already in us. Like
Just like
we are,
you don't have a hole in your head anymore.
no.
Your cells knew how to come back together and be whole.
Mm. Yeah. And I feel like as you were talking about, how there must have been an intentionality behind the different artists who came from all over the world to come to a gathering like this. I think like this is part of the power of our mind, the power of intention, the power of like a clear dream, the clear dream that this festival had to bring togetherness, to experience the aliveness of being together, to celebrate diversity, to celebrate, this rainbow way of living life, the ancient way. And that is
Yes.
not new. It's how we used to live. We used to circle together for healing. We used to come together for ceremonies. And it's just, this festival way of expressing these ceremonies are the concerts, And so there were so many performers who were speaking and singing and praying for togetherness, for unity, for let us bring this moment and dream of a better life, clean water, peace for our children, that that the minds of the authorities that be can open their hearts and know the truth. There were so many of these
Yes.
prayers.
Yes,
And
and so I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we were when we were sharing list of verbs, you added dream and envision, and I'm wondering if there's a difference in your mind or the way you conceive these two words, or are they two ways of saying the same thing? To dream and to envision. Is it? I'm wondering if a dreaming is a calling forward, an
I,
actual adding of prayer to the vision.
I feel like the dream is the beginning stages of envisioning.
Ah, okay.
It's like the foundational step, and then you come into an expansion of the dreaming, which becomes a vision, which to me, that's what it feels like.
So maybe the dream
Um,
is like the holy spark that comes to us, and maybe the
yeah,
envision is the giving it some flesh, some
I love
putting
that. Some
some
clarity.
flesh onto it.
Yes, I love that. Yes, yeah. And in also part of the blessing of being in right relationship. I think I used to be married, and I was married also to a beautiful German man who now lives in the French Alps. We were so very different, and yet we were united by the commonality of our love for Mother Earth. And and so coming here, what it is showing me and teaching me of dreaming is we all need to feel safe in order to feel like we can dream. Like for me, I having lived so many years in this old story of because growing up, I imagine this is a very similar story for a lot of women, is molestation, sexual abuse. And growing up, I had somehow created the story before I was age 7 that I had to give outside of myself to the masculine in order to be loved, in order to be like given attention, in order to be protected, in order to be cherished. And so what this
And so, sorry,
relationship
just let me just. I share a similar background, and there's something that when your brain is forming, your body is forming, how that becomes your story so deeply
is so
that
visceral, is so
that 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 to to be you, and I don't know if others who will be listening to this have some sense of having witnessed your dance and your embodiment of life and your embodiment of being a woman. There's been an incredible, a very profound healing journey that you have traveled. I just want to acknowledge that,
thank you.
the work that you've done, the healing that you've done, dear sister.
Yeah, it really isn't a path for the faint-hearted, that's for sure. Because I think a lot of people see. on the outside how beautiful it can be as we provide blessings and inspiration to the outer world. But what is happening in the background is, I get so many comments and questions around how are you so joyful all the time,
Hmm.
you know? And only if we can touch the depth of sadness and grief can we understand what joyfully is and truly is, to be able to navigate and traverse the polarity that life is, and its varied blessings. So thank you
And
for
to
acknowledging that.
yes, oh my goodness, yes, and the balance that you find in that, and the I'm sure that there was in the telling of your story a need to bear witness to yourself as the little girl, and to honor her and to see her,
Mm.
and how that I'm sure there's so much in that in terms of allowing her to express her anger, allowing her to express her fear, allowing her to express her confusion, and to turn yourself into those two people, to be the adult bearing the
To
witness and
mother,
the
reparent, yeah.
reparent. And so, how
Mhm.
very poignant that you are not only in your life story talking to yourself about being protective for your mother, being available to your mother, but now also realizing you have to also be your own mother. Uh, that to release your human mother from that level of responsibility
Yes.
and to allow yourself to be your own sacred mother is a part of that retelling of your life story, the not only the retelling but also the rehearing of your life story. And
Yes.
I'm honestly just so proud of you because to be who you are and to be able to be in your body in the way that you are, in a way that does give permission to others and that has such potency that you do,
Well, thank you,
is
my love.
really inspiring. All the way here through the internet, here in California,
Thank
I'm feeling
you.
your potency.
Thank you. You
You're
know,
welcome.
it it's so wondrous to me how really this path of life is non-linear, and it takes us such a while to understand this. And um last week I was in an intimate space with my beloved, and it reactivated some uh, old memories of when I was 5. And it really touched such a deeply vulnerable space that I was remembering the trauma from that time, which had my body come into a place of not feeling safe again.
Right,
And
right.
and so it's just really to acknowledge that there's it's a constant process. Healing is a constant process. You could think that, wow, I've been through so much, I've worked through so much, and somehow something quietly, slips in when you're not expecting it, and just like takes you by surprise. So it took me a couple of days to really like bring a sense of tenderness to my being. I think in your action verbs with this list, also what was really resonant for me is being still,
Being still. Yes.
cultivating stillness, because I think especially now in the distraction noise that is in the outer world, with all these narratives and stories of this and that and the other, the government, the politics, the climate, all of that is so much information, and we can come into overwhelmment and run out of energy and feel really drained. And so I find it so helpful and necessary and vital for our survival, to bring in a practice of stillness every day, as often as we can, because it's just really, which also speaks of the work that I do. I just finished running an 8-week container of Wonder Women, where women from Dominican Republic, California, Thailand, Florida, like women were coming in to tend to themselves for 90 minutes. And just hearing the commonality, the common ground is like we all just want to rest. holy rest, like rest is
Yes.
so vital
Yes.
for healing, for
It
us to
is.
come back into listening what is actually true, what is happening in my body, in my
Ah.
heart, in my mind, outside of what is happening, what is here, what is true, what is now.
You just
And
described, sorry, I need to interrupt you for a moment so that we just make sure we
yes.
capture this. You just provided a key. I feel like I need to hold an actual key in my
Yes,
hand.
please.
I'm holding a key because what you're saying, yes, is that stillness allows you for listening, which allows you to be true. This is also on your list of verbs here. And to understand that the stories that you accepted, which were part of keeping you alive when you were tiny, and part of keeping you from losing your sanity when you were tiny, are no longer serving you as an adult, and that this key of unlocking and finding your truth, the key is actually the stillness that opens the door to that ability to see, hear, and perceive your own truth, your own reality of where your boundaries are. So there's finding and holding healthy boundaries in that process. So the being still. And you were also talking about a journey of daily coming together for women. So there's a sense of being together, but also being alone, because to hold a space for women or for any human beings to find their
Yes.
stillness is to allow them to be alone in a very deeply sacred way where they can find.
Yes.
I always like to think of it like the plumb line that drops from heaven and somehow comes up from the earth, that there's that right that is unique to all of us depending on where we're standing on this round planet.
Mm, mm. Yeah. I mean, we touch on one of the verb, which is like creating the space, right? Creating the
Creating the
space is
space.
so very important. I think like this is what the gift of this festival that happened was, that these beings could come into expression. These beings could come into let go and allowing themselves to be seen, to be heard, to be
To be
felt, to be
seen.
appreciated, to
Yes.
be, like you are here. I see you. I feel you. I honor you. I appreciate you.
And
You
the actual
exist.
real person who exists, not the person who's so dutifully attending to the storyline, right? So to feel, to say to someone, I see you, you exist. I witness you, you exist.
Yes. What I was saying to my Singapore sister just now is, just because I think she was going through some relational stories around worthiness with her family. And I was, reminding us in that conversation, just because you exist, you matter, you are worthy, you are abundant, you are perfect. There's nothing you need to change for no one in order to claim this worthiness, because we all came as children of light, children of love, children of joy. This is our birthright. It is for
Yes.
everyone.
Yes.
Like nobody loses anything just because this person is in their joy. So, this is
Ah,
also
wait,
part
hold on a
of,
second. Could you say that again, please?
I don't know what I said.
You
Nobody
said you.
loses anything just because someone is in their joy.
Yes. Right. And
And
yet,
this is,
and yet, you also were telling us earlier in this conversation that to be able to be in your joy, you also have to be in your sadness, or in your trauma, or in your fear, or your overwhelm. And so, perhaps someone who is potently in their joy is activating that, but also the trauma memories that the other person is not ready to
mm,
hold. And I think that that's perhaps one of the biggest reasons that joy gets shut down.
yeah, I hear this and I feel this. There, as much as I really feel like this is part of my service work to life, is to just galvanize joy, is to just, until further notice, we're just going to celebrate everything. Everything is a gift. Everything is a blessing, even if it does not feel like so at the time, even though it feels like pain
Yes.
and struggle at the time. Everything
Yes.
is a blessing,
Yes.
because I was speaking to another Singapore sister who was having challenges in her marriage, and she was asking me, so what do I do when I feel rejection coming from my husband? And I say, you how do you anchor peace in that moment? Because if you come from a place of reaction and try and be right, then that's not going to do anybody no good. Not you, not him, not the relationship. And so, like, just come back to his if you see everything as an offering, she's like, how do I see this as an offering? He doesn't offer me anything. And I was like, if we see life as an offering, even his rejection, even his projection, then it is an invitation for you to bring it home to your self-loving. If he is unable to provide it, how do you give it to yourself? Because then you are
Yes.
free. Then he is
Yes.
free. Because
Yes.
how can the lesson and the reminder is, how can I be a more beneficial, helpful presence to myself? Because when I can be that, then nobody needs to feel responsible for me, and they can feel free to come and be themselves with me.
And
If
you're
I
and you're talking about, so you brought in a sensation of weight and stillness. What is an anchor? An anchor is something very heavy that we drop from our boat, which is something that blows on the oceans and the winds and the currents of the waves. We drop something heavy until it finds the actual contact with the earth through
mm,
that liquidity, through that water,
mm,
and then holds us and it tethers us so we can move a little bit and we can
mm,
blow a little bit, but it still brings us back to our own center. And so you're
mm,
describing to your friend, it's a gift because it's a moment for you to anchor and to come
mm,
back into giving that to yourself. And I recognize the truth in that, and I recognize the life
mm.
lessons in that, and
Yeah.
how every relationship has opportunity for that.
All of life has opportunities of that. I think it's just, if and so many of us can be so conditioned, like I've left Singapore for 4 years now, and I'm still noticing where I still have run these programs that have been served to me that is not my personal truth.
And so the
Whether
program
it's
the program is the story that runs automatically, right? And that probably has some kind of a pathway in our brain synapses. There's actual
mm,
physical circuitry there that the light flashes in our mind uh,
mm,
along a certain pathway. So you find yourself
mm,
going back to you notice, even though you've been gone for 4 years, which is part of your healing, to find other places to be. And in imagining yourself coming back to Singapore, you find the storyline still active.
absolutely. The last time I was in Singapore, I was there for a week because I had to go renew my passport. And I was in the plane, and we hadn't even landed, but we were almost landing, and I had fished out my notebook and I started to write a schedule. This is just like the program is so strong of like the doing, the overdoing, the overtending, the just like being very structural and being very organized.
It's a very
And
organized place, isn't it?
it is, it is. And I think I still find myself in ways of being that come from that education, um,
And
which
I'm
is a
sure that
blessing.
I was about to say that I'm sure that it serves you well in many ways to have an ability to organize.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, I think this is the trick for us who are on the path, is to find the treasure in every single like challenge or you know yeah, a part of the story that we may not necessarily immediately warm up to. That's like,
Right.
like that's not great, but what could be great about that? Like there is some juiciness there. There is some medicine there, and there's some blessings there.
And even I think there's a blessing in the recognition of the internal no. When we have that
Mm,
reaction and we say no, that's something important to honor, because again, going back to I think all of us are imprisoned by our storyline. I think that is a universal experience, and to actually say
yeah.
no is one of those moments of returning to the center, and to be able to express the no, but even also to find the balance. That was the other thing that I'm hearing from you, is that you have this beautiful freedom and ability to be present and expressive of that joy in the moment, and yet you also have this education and structure and organization, and how that balances, how those two things
Yeah.
can balance each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I really appreciate that, I grew up in Singapore that gave me in its colonization of English, that I can have a conversation like this with you now. I'm unfortunately not able to have a conversation like this with my mother because my mother is not as fluent in English. So this is also part of the me reclaiming and coming back to my roots. I think part of the last 4 years has also been about how do I share these layers of colonization to remember the medicine of where I actually came from, what my ancestors, 6,000-year-old language of and philosophy and feng shui and Chinese medicine, and just there's so
Yes,
much there that was
yes,
not given to me, that has been locked away. We didn't have education like that growing up. It was a very superficial way of learning Mandarin. And so I can get all philosophical in English, but I couldn't really even carry a fluid conversation with my mother while trying to tell her about my feelings, you know?
wow. So just the actual
Yeah.
physical barrier of the communication through the words. And so uh, I imagine you're exploring how else to communicate. Is it through touch? Is it through heart, energy, intention,
So
physical being together?
yeah, I haven't seen her for 3.5 years. We catch up on video. I just spoke to her yesterday, and in the first 2 years that I left Singapore, I had such a deep longing and over enthusiasm to tell her about everything that was happening in my life, including whether it was like sharing with her my new photography or, like all the different things that I was up to. And then I started to realize in 2 years, um, that I just had to live my life. This is my message. My message is my life. That she doesn't have to hear all the minute details of my stories in order to receive healing from it. Because I see the way that we have started to interact with each other just now, in the way that you were speaking about this reparenting aspect of our reclamation and our empowerment, is that we relieve our parents from having to do this work for us as we
Yes,
are adults already, and just like do this work ourselves. I start to see her relating with me as a woman as well, which is such a blessing for me, because there has been such a deep longing in the last 10 years of like, I want to meet my mother as a woman. Who is my mother as a woman? What does
yes,
she long for? What are her dreams? What were her challenges? And, and in the first 2 years of me leaving Singapore, it was almost like my over enthusiastic questioning was quite challenging for her, and
oh yeah,
she's not used to expressing herself. I had to hear about stories of her childhood from my auntie. She's just, just society and the way that she grew up just kept her so mute,
I
like
I
her
think that
voice.
that's a common. It's not just a Singaporean experience. I think it could be, it could be generational, but also for women, for many. And I don't even want to say just for women, but you and I are women, and so that is our context. That quietness of
Yes.
not expressing. I
Yeah,
recognize
I think
that.
it exists in humanity, like you say,
Yes,
in all of us, because it's the patriarchal narrative, that has brought about this. You do as you're told, you stay quiet, and you just go with what is being given to you,
and I
and
think
not speak up.
that's right, to follow and not speak up. And I there's something so profound about Singapore, and I've been there briefly. The heart of the city, as far as I could tell, is that beautiful botanic garden, and the life and the amazingness. And then yet in the middle of that botanic garden is the first rubber tree that started the whole claiming of the tropics for the commoditization of it, and the first palm oil tree
mm,
in the Botanic Garden in
mm,
Singapore. And
mm.
so the sacredness and importantness of Singapore on our holy Mother Earth, of healing Singapore as the epicenter of that colonization, of that patriarchal misstep, where where we've gotten to, allowing the colonialization of the tropics, and that the science started there.
Yeah,
And that, for me as a visitor, I was both deeply nourished and blessed by the life all around, and then also heartbroken at
yeah,
that discovery.
yeah.
And in deep prayer, I left Singapore in deep
Thank
prayer.
you. Thank you. We need this. Like I celebrate everything that Singapore is, and at the same time there are, you know, the death penalty.
Mm.
The death penalty is still present there. People are still getting hung, and just that does not make any sense to me at all.
And it's an
And
active reality in my country as well.
yes,
Yeah.
just it does not make any sense to me to destroy life. And also, I heard from a Singapore sister that Singapore is the first country to uh, be officially processing lab meat. It's the
Oh.
first country to. Mhm. There's like 15 laboratories now that are running like in the process of that coming to be. And that also does not make any sense to me.
Mm.
Um, which is why it feels really important to continue doing this ground and spirited work of coming back to what is true in your heart, what is
Yes.
true in your body, what is love, what does love feel like in your body, and the diversive ways of the powers that be that serve us these lessons of what it means to be successful, what it means to be happy, what it means to be safe. Like my mother, yeah, I just I also pray for her continued health. Um, I hear from her perspective, she's adhering and acquiescing because she feels that to be safe, because this is the only reality she's been given.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
um and I know because I am now living in a different reality that there are other dreams we can dream.
There are other
And
dreams, and there's something about I like to think of it like the rings on a tree, and some trees they grow very fast, and some trees they grow very slowly, and allowing the expansion to be right for each person. So
yeah,
the journey for one person that is the healing and the sacred holy journey could be making a very small change over the course of a life.
yes,
And the journey
yes,
for another human could be making vast changes over the course of a life.
yes. And I think what you and I are doing is just doing what our soul has come to this earth to do, is to do our part to
Yes.
revolutionize the change. And we might not see the final results of it, but we are here to yeah, we're just here to foster and to guide it to happen.
I
So
think we
thank
are.
you.
Thank
We
you too.
are.
Thank you. I think we're creating pathways. Is how I perceive of it. I
Yeah.
think it's like the first drop of water that forms the canyon has to invite some friends
Mm,
along, and then there's more drops of
yeah.
water. But it's just a
Yeah.
little trickle at first, and then more life flows and finds that to be a way to travel. And so I think that is true with healing as well, as we're part of this earth organism, earth organism
Yeah.
healing herself.
Yes. Yes. Healing herself through us. She is. We are the earth alive, actively dreaming.
And I came to realize, I don't know, probably 7 years ago at this point, that my most my most beautiful activated dreams were actually Mother Earth's to-do list for me. So going back to, you made a schedule. The Singaporean in you started to get organized before you even touched the ground there, that Mother Earth has a to-do list for me.
Yeah.
And those are my dreams. They come to me as my most activated beautiful dreams.
Thank you for hearing. Thank you for being still enough to hear her.
You're welcome. And it is interesting, stillness, yes, stillness and also motion. And I think that you probably
Yes,
can speak to this, because to be in motion and dance in your body to allow fluidity through you is another way of accessing that mental stillness, I believe.
absolutely. Like what you say, we've been talking about balance, and in order for the body to reach a place of stillness is to be able to free up the energy that is in the body that may not be aligned with its natural essence and state. Like we are shaking off the frustration, we're shaking our confusion, we're just like sounding and shaking and sighing. All of these are ways that this holy instrument is here to support us in our healing and our remembering. So just as much that stillness is important, the movement is so important too. The action and the being, the doing and the being. And
And the
so the
voicing, you
doing,
were you were talking about making sounds, so it's not even just the English or the Mandarin or the German
yeah,
or
yeah.
the C sharp and the F flat. It's raw. It could
Across the
be
spectrum,
it could
beyond
be
your imagining.
whatever your body understands is the sound and the shape of that sound that needs to happen.
Yes. Yes, my love. This is I want to share another little story. Like in Singapore, I could not burp. Like growing up, I went to a girls' school, and sometimes like the girls would be like cheeky and goofy and like have burping competitions. I'm sure this is like all across the world, like
Right.
as doing silly things, men and boys and girls.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't burp growing up. And when I started to do more healing work, I started to be able to burp like really fully 3 years ago. I was in a
Only three
healing
years ago.
intensive.
Only 3 years
Yeah,
ago. Yeah.
like in a healing intensive with a group of 30 people, and we were doing like healing work every day. And this burp started to come out that was like really full and like full bodied. And I was really happy for it. And for the next couple of years, when I was in facilitation or when I was doing a healing session, the burps would come when energy wants to move. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to move through some stories inside my narrative around what burping means as a Chinese person. I don't know if you know, but like the Chinese have been given this reputation of being really crude and crass with like burping in public and like, like it's very unladylike, it's very uncivilized. And I had to deal with my own judgments of that inside of myself. And now, I could be burping midway a conversation and I continue to go past it, because this is just part of energy moving.
Of
Like if
energy
we
moving.
don't put any
Right.
judgment on any of the sounds that are coming out of us, like you say,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
I have conversations with dogs and children like that I know don't speak this language. I'm like, it's like it's just being able to express happiness
And
without
they
the
and they
words.
understand the
They
dog and the
respond.
child. They do. With whatever, because what that does is it gives them permission, right? It gives them
Yeah,
permission to also be authentic.
they love it. The children love it, the dogs love it, the humans love it too, but it takes the adults love it too, but it takes a bit of getting used to. They get a little like stirred and shaken by it in the
Sure,
beginning, like,
sure.
what is this? Like, can I really? But they come along with it along the way. Yeah, I think in the end, it's just like providing that sense of it's safe to be. It's safe to be exactly as you are. It does not have to make sense. It does not have to look good. It does not have to be anything. and you are free. Just be yourself as you are, and it is perfect.
And
And so,
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you again because I,
mm,
just to bring, so the verb here I want to talk about is healing, to
yes.
heal, and how there are epicenters and waves of healing that then flow out and touch other energies and interact. And as they flow, they heal as they encounter. And so
Mm,
we can have a wound that happens in a place and that energy
mm,
travels. And we can also have a healing that happens in a place and that energy travels. And
mm.
I'm just feeling like this festival. Yay! Moving the
Yeah.
energy. Wow. Uh,
Sorry, moving
that
it.
that 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 in Germany you had this festival and those waves are traveling and I am a shore that is receiving that wave. And I'm feeling that wave traveling to Singapore and that is going to receive that wave and I'm seeing these
Yeah.
waves traveling around and that wisdom that we don't have to worry about, like you were talking about, you don't have to worry about telling your mother every single thing you're doing because all you have to do is be and seek her as another human being, as another woman, and allow her to have whatever level of quietude or bubbliness she wants to have in communicating. And so anyhow, it was just that I wanted to talk about healing as a concentric wave that travels
Mm.
in
Yes,
that
it
allowance.
travels. Absolutely. It's like we're vibratory beings on this in this realm of energy, like in these different bodies. And like I see, I think a lot of people still have this idea that having a conversation on the internet like this, the way that we are, may not be as impactful or rewarding as being in person. But like I have experienced it so many times. Like, we are energetic beings. Just just because we're sharing this space together, healing is already happening. Like, I feel connected to you. I feel connected to your story, even though I may not know the full story. Like, just the way that you feel connected to me. And and definitely there is a physical impact that is created when you're physically sharing space. Like, I feel like Germany is receiving the joy medicine, the freedom medicine that I carry,
Oh,
and they're
yes,
appreciating so much.
yes,
And 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 at the same time, like, I also feel my voice note to my sister in Singapore is freeing her energy up. She can have a cry when she listens to my prayer. She can have,
yes. That
she
the
can be,
tears, the water
yeah, the
coming.
waters, the waters. I have a song. I have to sing it and share it with you. I will offer it. I will
And
offer it as a voice recording
and
without the tears.
I also am going to let you know that we have, per our agreement before we started talking, about 10 minutes left for wrapping up.
Amazing. Yes.
And thank you for telling me you're going to send me a song. I will love to listen and feel.
Yeah, so many songs. There's this sister. Her name is Olga Tepla. She is an Israeli sister with twin boys in Israel now, on tour in Germany, and her medicine is so powerful. And I think you might remember, if you have seen this video I posted, is we are here to break the chains. Each of us can lead the way through the era of the open heart. It's just like so beautiful. I'm gonna send you that recording too. I took while we were in that concert. She was singing it live this weekend, so I'm gonna send it to you as well. It's just, music is so healing. Movement basically is so healing. The movement of sound, the movement of the body, the movement of life. It's so healing. And I think the way that the circumstance has been in the last 2 years is to block and choke up the
Constrict.
healing. Yeah,
Yes, we've been isolated, uh, in house arrest. So many people
yeah,
around the world. Yeah, and
yeah,
to allow for the movement and to allow for the children and the dogs running and swimming and
yeah,
the
yeah,
trees doing what trees do, the shimmering of the
Yeah.
trees.
They're just waving in the wind. I would love, I have this dream that's just come up now. It would be so beautiful to have a piece as a verb gathering someday. I'd be so
Ah,
happy to support you
thank you. That never
in
even occurred
some,
to me.
right? Wouldn't that be
But
wonderful?
so in this room where I am, I'm going to see if I can show you and those who are also watching. So there's the peace wall, and
Yes.
there's the closet door.
Wow.
So behind the
Wow.
closet door,
Wow.
in this little house, we so behind the closet door over the weekend, the shelving broke,
Yes.
and 15 years of my notes were weighing the shelves down and broke, and we
Oh
had to
my
take
love.
everything off, and we had to rebuild the shelf. And I was going through the notes, and I found when I was starting to dream this project, and I was searching. So it wasn't peace as an action verb, it was peace as a action blog. That was my first, I think it's a blog. Wait, I don't know what it is. And but what I loved to see was that the dream is now the reality, and now the notebooks are in my worm compost bin, feeding the worms. And it felt so good that it was ready to say, time to send you back to earth, and to
Oh,
move on to the next. And so, maybe now what you're showing me is the pieces in action verb gatheration, to come together, and I love that idea. It's a new
yeah.
phase for this dream.
How powerful it would be, to bring these dreams and these visions and these prayers alive and to share them all across the globe. Yeah.
I will be doing that on TikTok. In terms of
Yes.
the, yes, I actually will be. In leading up to launching this podcast,
Oh,
I'm going
that's
to
right.
ask people to engage with each of these verbs and think about what they mean.
Amazing.
So thank you
I'm
for
still
inspiring
practicing
me.
my TikTok muscle, but like maybe
Oh,
you're,
I'm not there yet. I have an account. That's all I have. I have 0 followers and 0 posts.
I will follow you.
Thank you. And likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Leeliu, thank you for being you. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your journey. Thank you for allowing yourself the still moments that you need to heal when you find something that comes back for healing. Thank you for listening to your beloved and following him all the way to his land. I want to just say a quick shout out to the two of you, because I notice he takes the most wonderful photographs of you. He captures you, excuse me, he captures you in film or digital image in moments of your joy, in moments of your aliveness, in moments of your expression, and very often in moments of your connection with earth, with water, with tree, with stone. And I know that there's a sacred permission that he's giving you in that witnessing of you that allows you to be seen and then to share that image. And so much of your healing work that I have experienced is the sharing of allowing yourself to be witnessed. And so I want to say, Axel, hello, congratulations on your beauty and on your relationship. And I just want to honor the
Thank
two
you.
of you.
Thank you so much. I had a sister from New Zealand say a similar thing last week when she saw the video. She was in tears, and she actually sent me a 3-minute voice note to bring to him, appreciating the work that he's done. And I think this is why we've chosen to walk this path. Like he has Gaia in him so strong. He really is like a loving steward of her grace. And yeah, thank you for seeing that and for acknowledging that. And he will be so happy to receive this.
The safety that he gives you. And so we've talked much about women here, and yet we could have a whole nother,
Yes.
20 conversations about the healing work that men do,
Yes.
and how important it
Yes.
is to honor the healing journeys of men and women, and in going back to the stories of our wounding, to recognize that the other person on the other side of that story was also wounded, and to allow
Yes.
for, and that's something else I know we're wrapping up this conversation, but I want to thank you for, because in your various writings you do express that. You do express the wholeness and the honoring of all human beings who need to heal from the sexual wound, and the life wound. And there's so, the wound on the planet and the sexual wound in the human family are one and the same wound. And to, you have a beautiful way of holding space and honoring for the whole human family to heal, and that is not an easy accomplishment, to be able to do that, and I honor and thank you for that.
Thank you, my sister, for seeing me and for uplifting me with your seeing.
Oh,
And
you're
it
welcome.
brings me more strength to continue walking this path and to bringing people with me and us along the way. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, dear
And
Leeliu.
if you ever want to have conversations with men, I would be happy to vote for him to come and have a he is so beautiful.
So
He's like a master communicator,
please,
and just so brilliant.
so please pass him along my formal invitation. And because I don't know Axel, I am going to fill out a very sparse table for him and invite him to fill out the rest. So, but I will send you that invitation to pass along to him. I would be most honored to include him in this podcast journey. Most honored if he is
Thank
interested.
you. Yes, 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 yes. I'm encouraging him to show up more in his greatness. He's
Right.
also very shy, I think it's yeah,
And
he's so just,
the other thing with these conversations, which is true for all of my guests, is the invitation to have the conversation and not have it be part of the podcast.
yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
because I think
I read it.
the acknowledgement and the conversation is what matters, and whatever circle of audience that includes, whether it's just two people, me and that person, or
Yeah,
we share. Yeah.
yeah, thank you for that. And I'm sure he will read the your brief, and which is it includes that in your brief.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, I will pass along the invitation. Thank you so much,
Thank
Christine.
you. Thank you so much, Lulu. So